credits are long, so we could spend the whole time here just giving the credits of Steve Scorfina. Most people in St. Louis know Steve, REO Speedwagon, Pavlov's dog, and Mike Mesey, who drummed with Head East. With our good friend Roger Boyd.
All types of rubbing elbows with greats.
You would have seen
and
him
you
with,
guys emanate like rock stardom.
Yeah, look at him.
There's a lot of
and they're up in the morning. They got up this morning
in the room. Yes,
but they're here for a very special project. Both of them, of course, have worked with Johnnie Johnson, the great Johnnie Johnson, who died in 1987, I think it was. No, 2005. Yep. When I think 1987, I think of Hail Rock and Roll.
Get it right.
That's when he got back into it. It was kind of forced back into it. And you guys, how did you come across this track of Johnny B Goode where he's playing the keyboards on it and you built around that?
Well, I was touring with Head East at the time and had been playing with Chuck Berry also and Johnny. And I was doing a project where I was recording a CD for my mom.
Yeah, nice. Such a nice boy
and
you
I had all
are.
kinds of people playing on it.
None of us can avoid it.
Yeah, and I was doing a version of Johnny B Goode that I wanted to do. And I called Johnny and asked him if he'd like to play on it. So he said, yeah, great. So we got him into the studio, and that was in 2000.
Okay.
And he came in, and he heard the tracks, the basic tracks, and started playing to it. And he goes, oh my God, go get Frances. She's got to hear this. He was smiling from ear to ear. And he sat there, he laid like 2 tracks down to it, and that was it. It was perfect.
By the way, is Frances still alive?
Yes, she is.
She's amazing.
And a moment in my life was when me and Mike went over and played the track for her a couple of weeks ago. That was like one of those priceless moments.
Now, we heard it opening up here.
Well,
we heard what we're talking about.
Let's just set what we're talking about, because I don't think we really established that.
No, it is a track of Johnny B Goode. And they did it, remember when the Beatles found a Lennon track?
Yes.
It's kind of like that, a keyboard, and they built around it. Tell us who is on this. Now, I know you guys are on this, a version of Johnny B Goode.
Well, first of all, we had some people from St. Louis. Leslie Craig, who's an awesome singer who was in Nashville for like 10 years. She's around in town. We had Greg Hullab that plays bass with Steve a lot.
You're leaving the most obvious names out, and probably on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, of course. We'll let Steve tell the story about how we got Michael McDonald.
Yeah,
I think they were old friends from Ferguson.
right.
You guys grew up together.
Well,
in
actually,
Ferguson,
when
right?
you first mentioned my name, you said REO Speedwagon and Pavlov's dog. Well, I would have rather you had said Mike and the Majestics, which got together.
Rewind.
Which got together 50 years ago when Mike was 11 and I was 13.
Living in Ferguson.
In Ferguson.
Right.
On a street called High Mount in Forestwood. Amazing. And how the track came about was Mike had, well, as you know, I'm a antique junk dealer.
Yes, of course.
On top of being a rock star, Mike was out I was selling stuff at the Winsville Flea Market, and he comes up to me and goes, man, I got this track of Johnnie Johnson that's great. Would you like to play on it? And I said, well, of course I'd like to play on it. And so we got together, and I laid some steel guitar down on it, and I said, well, why don't we get in touch with Mike and see if he'll sing it?
Yeah.
Why don't you call it Straight Out of Ferguson?
Yeah, Straight Out of Ferguson. Well, so anyway, right before all the stuff broke out in Ferguson, about 2 weeks before that, the Majestics had a 50-year reunion. Yeah. Boy, I'm showing my age, ain't I? And so one of the guys in the band rented a bus, and we drove around and looked at our houses and the first CYC dances that we played.
And nobody called the police when you
No, and
there's a bunch of hippies in a bus out front.
Yeah, and Dan Duncan had a barbecue, and we played and stuff, and it was pretty darn exciting to get. But I'm riding on the bus, and I said, hey, Mike, a friend of mine has a track of Johnny B Goode, and would you like to sing it? And without any hesitation, he said, yes, I'd love to do it.
Now, there are more. We're going to get to those. But first, for those who don't know who Johnnie Johnson is, every musician knows who Johnnie Johnson is. Johnnie Johnson is the subject of Johnny B Goode, and he played with Chuck Berry for years. In fact, he had a trio and asked Chuck to join this trio on New Year's Eve one year, I think back in the 50s, after he had moved to St. Louis. one of the members of the trio couldn't make it on New Year's Eve, and they go, well, who do we know who's not so good that he wouldn't be working tonight? And they said, well, I know this guy named Chuck Berry. So they got Chuck, and Chuck pretty much took over the group and wrote that song, Johnny Be Good, unbeknownst to Johnny. And he played it on stage one night and said, that song's about you.
Well, is it because Johnny Be Good, meaning that he's so good he's playing
Actually,
out?
it had to do with how good he was when he got drunk.
Oh.
I think he used
Well,
to.
actually-
He was an infamous drinker.
He when they would go into town, and after the concert he'd find some band to go play with, and he'd stay up playing until late, and
that's when he got really good?
and sometime he
Real
wouldn't
good.
make it back to the hotel, and the plane would leave, and they go to the next city, and Johnny be stuck there, and Chuck said, well, Johnny, why can't you just be good?
Yeah.
Well, that's the story.
That's one of the stories.
Right.
You know.
So, but anyway, he is legendary.
Yeah.
He is legendary to musicians
Can't he
around
just
the
make a
world.
tape for his mom?
It's
So
hard to
it
believe how
does
many
happen.
people from St. Louis, well, from New York and L.A. have all played with him, because everybody I went out to L.A. and recorded Farthest Track had something to do with Johnny Johnson. You know, Jimmy Vivino, which is another one that recorded on it.
The music director for
Conan O'Brien.
Conan O'Brien.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so we actually flew out and went to Warner Brothers Studios. They were just finishing the filming of Conan, and Jimmy walks in, gives us a big hug. I had never met him before that. He acted like he knew me his whole life just because of the connection
Because of
of
that
Johnny.
connection,
Right.
yeah.
And we went in the back in the studio and we recorded his track.
He added guitar to it, along with your steel, and David Sanborn. How did that happen?
That was another deal where Art Holliday, who produced the movie, that we're
going to get to
raising
that. We
money
haven't even
for,
talked
right.
about the documentary.
Oh, my
Right.
goodness.
We'll
Yeah.
get to that. But Art Holliday had sent out some emails to people that were actually in the film and asked them if they would be interested in being on this track. Well, we had been recording all along to finish it, and he got a response from Jimmy, which said, of course, I would love to do it. Donia, who was Johnny's protege, which I actually met at Johnny's funeral in 2005, where everybody was playing there for him.
Yeah.
And she sang backup vocals on it. So while I was out in LA, I was at 2 different studios, and everybody has some connection, whether
Yeah.
it's St. Louis or Johnny, that's on this track.
That's nice. Okay, so this track, where do we get it? How is it
Okay,
available?
that's the
What's-
thing. It is just now being released, and all of the money, I assume all of it. I mean, there's 99-cent track. You know, you can get it at Amazon, or you can get it at CD Baby and iTunes, and it is going toward this documentary, which Art Holliday is directing.
The film was almost completely done. It is done. But he needs to release it. He needs for licensing and stuff like
Right.
that. So our intention was, well, let's raise money and get the money you need for licensing, and let's get this thing out there.
Quickly, who is in the documentary? The list
Oh
of
my
names is
God.
amazing.
The documentary, we saw a viewing of it, and it's some of the interviews are just incredible with Eric Clapton, Keith Richards, Bonnie Raitt, Buddy Guy. The list just
Paul
goes.
Schaefer.
This is amazing. Yeah,
It goes on and on and on,
Right.
and the movie is going to be fantastic.
Mike Mesey and Steve Scorfina, thank you both for coming in and sharing this with us. Now, when you go to iTunes or CD Baby or Amazon looking for it, there's going to be more than one Johnny Be Good
Yes.
track there. How do we know which one?
You can
it is?
you can type in Johnny Be Good, Goode, Michael McDonald. You can type in Johnny Be Good, David Sanborn. You can
That'll
type
do it.
in Michael McDonald, Steve. So you can type any one of those 4
Great.
names in there, because it is the title of it is Johnny Be Good by Mesey Scorfina, featuring Michael McDonald, Johnny Johnson, and David Sanborn.
And for 99 cents, you can't go wrong. You got to hear this track. We
yeah.
played a little bit of it. We'll play it going out.
Wow.
Thank you both.
Well, thank you.
What a
very much.
valuable big thing for such a bargain price. This segment is made possible through the generosity of Nighthawk Security. We thank them. They're locally owned and locally monitored here in St. Louis since 1974. Home and business security for the St. Louis metro area for over 40 years. Call Joe at 846-4600.
Deep down in